Part 25. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 241. Passers-by commented a lot on the passing carriages, and their envy and jealousy were beyond words. Shen Yizi couldn't listen to what those people behind him said anymore. The words King Chen's adopted sister kept echoing in his ears. Okay, when did Gu Swiding take in a foster sister? The brother and sister are really affectionate. How come he never told her? Was it deliberately concealed, or was it forgotten? Or do you feel there is no need to tell her? Shen Yizi had to admit that he was very jealous and even had the urge to turn around and rush back to Prince Chen's mansion to question Gu Swiding. However, she finally suppressed it. She could feel Gu Swiding's feelings for her, so how could she doubt him just because of a few comments from passers-by? Isn't the most important thing between lovers just trust? But the truth is such that I still feel very uncomfortable. She stared at the chariot, and with a move of her fingertips, the gauze curtain was blown open, revealing an elegant and beautiful face. As if aware of being watched, the people inside also looked over, and their eyes met for a moment. Shen Yizi looked away without any disturbance, feeling calmer. It's not that she's boasting, but in terms of looks alone, she can beat that girl Pei Chi by a starry sky, okay. Although it is a bit narcissistic to say this, she is indeed good looking. Why shouldn't she be narcissistic? Pei Yuan, who was walking in the chariot, looked at the strange-looking man. For some reason, the moment she met her eyes, she felt a sense of fright, as if that man would pose a great threat to her. Obviously she didn't even know that person. But I feel uneasy for no reason. Hua Yuan, go find out about that person, Pei Yuan ordered in a low voice. There was a yes in the air. In the elegant room facing the window of Wangjiang building on the street, Gu Heng held a wine glass and glanced out casually. At this glance, he stood up suddenly and said, "My benefactor." After a moment, Shen Yizi looked at the master and servant who were standing in front of him, and searched in his memory. Wasn't this the two people he saved on the Jinlong River that day? "My benefactor, I finally found you," Gu Heng said excitedly. Remembering that he had gained 2 merit points for saving this man last time, Shen Yizi decided to give him a chance to repay himself. You should know that if an average person is rescued, they can only provide a few tenths of merit points, which can only be exchanged for a few points. The person in front of me is dozens or hundreds of times larger than an ordinary person. What does this mean? It shows that this person has a lot of luck. If this is the world in a book, then this person is at least a character who can show his face, rather than a background panel or a passerby. So Shen Yizi decided to get acquainted with him. She got off her horse and pointed to a tavern on the roadside. "Go in and talk." Gu Heng and Xiechong followed closely behind. The tavern is not very big, and there are no separate private rooms. There are several screens set up between the seats as a barrier. After sitting down, Shen Yizi set up a soundproof barrier. Just as Gu Heng was about to speak, the waiter came over with enthusiasm and asked, "What would you like to order?" Gu Heng casually ordered a few dishes and dismissed the waiter. "My dear friend, last time you..." The waiter brought me another pot of free tea and a smiling face. Gu Heng frowned and ordered Xiechong, and Xiechong stood outside the screen to prevent the waiter from disturbing him again. The exciting opening remarks were interrupted again and again, and Gu Heng's mood had calmed down a bit. "My dear friend, thank you for saving me last time. Otherwise, my life would have been in danger. Please accept my gratitude." He stood up and bowed deeply to Shen Yizi. Shen Yizi raised his hand and lifted him up out of thin air. "It's just a matter of convenience. There is no need to mention the word benefactor again. You call me old for nothing. My surname is Shen and I am the third in the family." Brother Shen. Gu Heng immediately climbed up the pole and said, "My surname is Gu, and I work as a waiter at home. You can call me waiter or something." "Waiter? Shen Yizi couldn't help laughing. Gu Hong also realized that this title was somewhat ambiguous and felt embarrassed. He took out a stack of banknotes from his arms and handed them to Shen Yizi. This is 100,000 taels. I hope Brother Shen doesn't mind it. I know you don't like this small amount of money, but when you are walking outside, sometimes money still matters, very useful. How could Shen Yizi dislike it? With a flick of her hand, the pile of banknotes disappeared, and she put them into a large box in a space specially designed to store money. This hand made Gu Hong feel envious and respectful. In addition, my mother told me that if I am lucky enough to meet Brother Shen again, I will give this to you. Gu Hong handed over another long box, with an elixir lying inside. It was about 200 years old and was in good condition. Well, your mother is interested. This elixir is worth no less than 100,000 taels. Shen Yizi closed the lid to prevent the spiritual energy from leaking. It's good if third brother Shen likes it. Gu Hong was very happy when he accepted it, and suggested, Mom really wants to thank third brother in person. I wonder if third brother has time. Shen Yizi shook his head, there's no need to meet. I've already accepted the banknotes and the elixir. I don't need to worry about saving my life. Gu Hong looked disappointed. He finally saw his benefactor, but he wondered if there would be a chance to see him again after this farewell. Shen Yizi stood up and said, Okay, I have something else to do, so I won't stay any longer. Seeing as you have been stuck on the third level of qi refining for a long time, this bottle of barrier-breaking liquid may be effective for you. Shen Yizi left a bottle of barrier-breaking liquid on the table and walked out. Gu Hong held the medicine bottle in his hand. Third brother. Shen Yizi paused, can I ask you a favor? Third brother, just say it. If there is any news about heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the future, help me pay more attention to them. This is a messenger talisman. Cast the net widely to catch more fish. Gu Hong seemed to be overjoyed after getting the task. He grabbed the messenger talisman in his hand and said, Don't worry, I will help you pay more attention. This time Shen Yizi really left, and there were no more twists and turns on the road. Hua Yuan returned to Pei Yuan and said to her, That man is a monk. I can't see through his cultivation, so I don't dare to get too close. He seems to have an old relationship with the second prince who just returned to Beijing. The second prince is in the street. He stopped him and the two went into a tavern on the roadside to talk for about a quarter of an hour. He set up a barrier and I couldn't hear the content of their conversation. Pei Yuan listened thoughtfully. When Shen Yizi returned to Jiazhuang, it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. Although I have only been away for 2 or 3 days, the moment I came back, I still felt like a fallen leaf returning to its roots. It was indeed better to be at home. Although the imperial capital is prosperous enough, she is still a passerby and is not as comfortable as staying at home. Since he went out in the name of collecting medicine, Shen Yizi had to show off at all costs, so he went to Qingmang Mountain and picked a basket of medicine along the way, before leading Nian Nian back to the village. When going down the mountain, she accidentally glanced and found that a forest to the north of the village had been cut down. At the moment, a group of people were busy inside, seeming to be building. Those people don't seem to be from the village. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 242. Shen Yizi took a closer look and found that the faces of those people had the word slave tattooed in green. Where did these slaves come from? Dr. Shen is back. How was the harvest? Did you get any medicine? On the way home, villagers greeted Shen Yizi from time to time, and she responded to them one by one. Hand-holding Nian Nian and stepping into the courtyard gate, Shen Yizi found that the courtyard was very deserted. Only Kansan was sorting medicinal materials, cleaning and drying them. Girl Kansan called out without putting down the work he was doing. Shen Yizi asked, Where are you Bao and Mr. Luo? Kansan said, Mr. Luo took Yuanbao to Yunqian Temple. He said he had an old relationship with Master Changfeng and went to see his old friend. Ganu went to the city to send flowers. Shen Yizi nodded, untied the medicine basket, and took out the medicinal materials inside for processing. Nian Nian also squatted aside to help, and Shen Yizi took the opportunity to teach her how to identify medicinal materials and told her some simple pharmacology. Nian Nian, do you know what kind of medicine this is? Shen Yizi picked up the herbs that looked like shepherd's purse. Nian Nian shook her head. This is Changsong pine, also called curculago. It tastes a bit like ginseng. Its roots are mainly used for medicine. It smells sweet and warm, and is not poisonous. Nian Nian is very smart. She can remember it after reading it once, but what she is most concerned about is, can I eat it? Shen Yizi smiled and scratched her little nose. Fool, how can anyone eat raw herbs directly? Inside Yunqian Temple, Luo Yaoyao did not take the usual route while holding Yuan Bao, but went directly over the wall to the courtyard where Master Changfeng lived. Before the person approaches, the voice has already arrived. Bald donkey, an old friend is coming to your door. Why don't you come out to greet me quickly? Changfeng threw out a cleanly chewed chicken leg bone. Luo Yaoyao thought it was some kind of hidden weapon at first, so he clamped the hidden weapon with his like lightning. But when he saw that it was a chicken leg bone, he immediately threw it to the ground and let out a sigh. I knew that you, a bald donkey, was an impure person, yet you were hiding here to eat chicken. Changfeng didn't bother to pretend in front of old acquaintances, and continued to eat the roast chicken with great interest. He leaned on the table, leaning on the table, one leg crossed over the other, and he was shaking leisurely. There was no trace of it. What does a monk look like? Luo Yaoyao was not surprised at all. But ridicule is indispensable. Put your legs down. What do you think? You don't have to spoil the child. Changfeng was about to retort, but when he saw the baby in his arms, he shut up angrily. Not only did he put down his legs and sit upright, he also took the initiative to pass the roast chicken to Qingbao. Would you like it? It's delicious. Yuanbao shook his head. Grandpa Changfeng, eat it, I'm not hungry now. Changfeng suddenly smiled when he heard him call him grandpa. You old guy, why do you have time to see me? Luo Yaoyao naturally did not come to see him, but to show off. I don't want you to live a miserable life in the mountains, so I specially sent you some delicious food. He unpacked the bundles layer by layer. Inside were several tightly tied oil paper bags, which he opened one by one. Crispy pork, braised pork elbow, braised chicken feet, braised pig ears. Hee, try it. My apprentice's wife made this. I'm not bragging, her craftsmanship is really amazing. I'm willing to be inferior to her. Changfeng was originally wondering why this old guy came with Qingbao, but now that he heard what he said, what else didn't he understand? He picked up a piece of pig ear and put it into his mouth. Well, it sure tasted familiar. Luo Yaoyao asked, how is it? Well, it's just as delicious as the previous one. Changfeng would not follow his wishes. Why, do you think you are the only one who has eaten the delicacies cooked by Miss Shen? When the poor monk was eating the delicacies sent by Miss Shen earlier, you old guy didn't know where you were. What does it mean to be as delicious as before? Luo Yaoyao thought about it for a moment, then looked at his proud and enjoying expression, and immediately understood. Have you already tasted the skills of girl Shen in love? Then why is he showing off? Luo Yaoyao grabbed the food and held it in his arms, just to taste it. He really thought he was here to show him care. What a beautiful thought. Changfeng was unhappy. Old guy, why are you so stingy? He reached out to grab it. For a little food, the two of them performed a full martial arts show in front of Yuan Bao. Grandpa Changfeng, please stop fighting. I have a lot of delicious food here, all for you. Yuan Bao took out the small bag as big as a palm, and soon the desk was full. Good boy, You are so good. Grandpa likes generous children like you. Chang Feng touched Yuan Bao's head. As a result, I felt something was wrong with just one touch. He had previously given the 7 treasures glazed bead to this child, but now he could not feel the slightest breath of the glazed bead from him. He glanced at Qingbao and met his big, clear, and innocent eyes. Luo Yao slapped his hand away and said, "Get your greasy hand away." There was no need to touch the head of his precious disciple. Chang Feng took a deep look at him and saw that he was completely unaware. Same, the child in front of me is exactly the same as Qingbao, except for one thing, he doesn't have the Kaibao glazed bead. No wonder the old guy didn't notice it. Qingbao, can you help Grandpa bring in the honeysuckle that is drying outside? Good. Yuan Bao didn't doubt that he was there and went away obediently. Luo Yao snorted softly, "My good little disciple, you can handle him so smoothly. I don't even want to handle him. The most he can do is to let the little guy tap his shoulders." Chang Feng ignored him and waved his hand to create a barrier to prevent the conversation from falling into the ears of others. He is not Qingbao. Asterisk. Shen Yizi and others were having dinner when Luo Yao came back with Yuan Bao. When he saw Shen Yizi, Yuan Bao's eyes immediately lit up and he quickly threw himself into her arms. "Mother." Shen Yizi picked him up, held his face and kissed him from side to side. "Have you missed my mother?" "Think, I dreamed of my mother last night." "Oh, what did you dream about, mother?" "Mother sat on a very big bird, and it flew away in no time." Yuan Bao stretched out his hand and gestured, trying to prove that the bird was really big. The mother and son were talking affectionately. Luo Yao watched coldly, feeling more and more panicked in his heart. They all said that mother and son are connected. He could see how deep the relationship between Shen Yizi and Qingbao was, but the child who pretended to be Qingbao even deceived her. Had it not been for Chang Feng's reminder, he would have been kept in the dark. When was Qingbao transferred? What does the person behind the scenes want to do? Luo Yao's heart was so tormented when he thought about where Qingbao had been taken, that the food on the table in front of him was all tasteless. Finally finished eating, Luo Yao stood up, put his hands behind his hands and said to Shen Yi, "Girl Shen, I have something to ask you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 243. Shen Yizi wiped Yuan Bao's mouth before walking over. The two of them came to the study room, and Luo Yao put up a soundproof barrier. Seeing this, Shen Yizi's heart trembled. "Mr. Luo, what's wrong? I told you not to rush yet." When he said this, Shen Yizi became more and more anxious. "You say it?" Luo Yao said with a sad face, "Qingbao was kidnapped and his current whereabouts are unknown." Shen Yizi's consciousness penetrated into the space. "Isn't that Qingbao who was playing like a little lunatic in the amusement park?" "Wait a minute, Mr. Luo doesn't know that Qingbao is in her dimension, and isn't Yuan Bao, who plays Qingbao in the outside world, still there? We were having dinner together just now. Why did Mr. Luo say this? That one outside is a fake." Luo Yao talked about the process of his discovery. After hearing this, Shen Yizi really didn't know what expression to put on. He didn't expect that his flawless role-playing would be defeated by a 7-treasure glass bead. If Mr. Luo is not told the truth, he probably won't let it go easily. Shen Yizi had no choice but to release Qingbao in front of him. The scene around him suddenly changed, and Qingbao's expression was confused and cute. "Mother? Grandpa?" She. Luo Yao is even more confused than him. What's going on? Is the Qingbao in front of me real or fake? Shen Yizi brought Yuan Bao in and asked him to stand with Qingbao. The two little guys looked at each other and held each other's hands lovingly. Luo Yao was stunned. This is. Could it be that the apprentice's wife actually gave birth to a pair of twins, but for some reason she hid one of them and showed it to the outside world as Qingbao? Shen Yizi came behind the two little guys, squatted down and took them into his arms at the same time, and said to Luo Yao Yao, Mr. Luo, the one on my right is Qingbao, and the one on my left is Yuan Bao. Yuan Bao's the status is a bit special, so I can't tell you for the time being, but Yuan Bao and King Bao are the same in my heart, they are both my little treasures. Usually, the two of them don't appear in front of people at the same time, but take turns, which caused you misunderstanding. I'm really sorry. Luo Yao Yao had a guess in his mind, but he couldn't ask it in front of his two children, so he kept it secret and said, there's nothing to be sorry for. It's too late to be happy that I have an additional disciple. He learned that Qingbao had not been kidnapped by the gangsters, and that Yuan Bao was not pretended to be an enemy. He felt relieved. He looked at the two little guys in front of him with eyes full of love. One person touched his head, put his hands behind his back and went out. Asterisk. Girl, the foundation is now on the right track. Several families in the village have taken out loans to start small businesses, but more people are still waiting to see what happens. After breakfast, Xiao San came to report to Shen Yizi on all aspects of the situation. First of all, the cooperation with Huishun Hall, Tianbao Pavilion, and City Lord's Mansion, followed closely by the foundation. Shen Yizi asked with interest, which companies have taken out loans? Xiao San opened the foundation's accounts and presented them to them. Shen Yizi took a look and unexpectedly discovered that Granny Nai, the village chief's seventh uncle, had also taken a loan. The reason for the loan was to start a salted duck egg business. She has eaten the salted duck eggs made by Grandma Nai, and they taste really good. Those duck eggs were laid by Grandma Nai's own ducks. The ducks were free-range and roamed freely every day. They were raised to be fat, tender and firm. The duck eggs they produced were also very good, most of them were double yolk eggs. The pickled salted duck eggs have tender whites, bright red yolks, fine texture, and a lot of oil. When you pierce them with chopsticks, the red oil will come out. Perfectly used with porridge. If they are freshly pickled salted duck eggs, they have a light salty taste and are great to eat without anything. Sautéing tofu with egg yolk is also a very good dish. Thinking of this, Shen Yizi became a little greedy and said to Xiao San, when you are free, help me buy 2 jars of salted duck eggs from Grandma Nai, 1 jar of freshly salted duck eggs and 1 jar of salted duck eggs. Xiao San responded. By the way, what's going on with those slaves in the north of the village? Shen Yizi asked. Xiao San was about to report the matter to her. Girl, I bought a group of slaves and plan to let them reclaim the wasteland. In the forest to the north of the village, I plan to cut down and build some houses to house them. Slave. Yes, there are 32 in total, 15 of them are men in their prime, and there are women. Xiao San gave her a detailed account of the slaves and presented her with a box of slave deeds. Shen Yizi looked through it and found that the slave's origin, nationality, specialties, gender, price, and other information were written on the slave deed. Just like the goods instructions. Shen Yizi didn't know what to say for a moment. The Tianyuan Empire was very open in many aspects, and many times she didn't even feel like she was living in ancient times. However, paradoxically, there were still many bad habits in this era, such as slavery. Of course, she doesn't mean to criticize anything. She doesn't have any noble sentiments about serving the country and the people. She just wants to take care of her own land. But she couldn't treat living people as slaves. Now that we are on her territory, let's treat her like a servant. Shen Yizi conveyed his intention to Xiao San and asked him to make a detailed set of rules and regulations, and Xiao San implemented them without any questioning. This made her particularly satisfied. Although the intelligent puppet can think independently, it obeys its master's orders unconditionally and never contradicts her or brings emotions into its work. It is truly the perfect butler. Since having Xiao San, she feels that everything at hand has become more organized. After Xiao San went down, a charter was quickly drawn up, mainly focusing on various aspects of slaves' treatment, such as how long a day's work is, how much the wages are, what rewards are given for good work, etc. Of course, there are rewards and punishments. Human nature is greedy. If you indulge yourself blindly, the consequences will not be very good. Shen Yizi made some appropriate revisions after reading it, and Xiao San transcribed it again. Yes, let's do it this way. To build Moqing City, we need a lot of people. It's not realistic to just attract them from the outside world, so we will definitely buy more slaves in the future. We must set the rules and regulations in advance. If there are more people in the future, it's easier to manage. By the way, if you encounter slave trading in the future, just try to buy them all. She could not abolish slavery. In this case, she might as well buy more. Compared to others, Shen Yizi believed that those slaves would at least receive more humane treatment from her. With rules and regulations in place, how can we avoid getting a work license? Shen Yizi plans to move the modern company management here. The work badge needs to contain information such as a bust, name, position, and department. It is not only cumbersome but also time-consuming to make each one. After all, there is no assembly line operation here, and it all requires manual carving. I wonder if there is anything in the grocery store that can provide this function. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 244. Shen Yizi started searching with some hope, but to her surprise, she actually found it. It is a thing called a recorder. It is humanoid in shape and contains many formations. Its function is equivalent to a combination of scanner and printer and engraving machine. With one scan of your eyes, you can burn the scanned effects onto the prepared material, which can be paper, wood, jade, etc. At the same time, you can also set the things to be burned, such as the size, shape, and fonts that need to be burned. Very convenient and efficient. Take burning a work badge as an example, the whole process only takes less than 3 minutes. After something is burned, it will be spit out from the front chest of the recorder. Once this thing is used well, it may be of great use in the future. The price is not higher than that of a puppet, and it is still within her acceptance range. Shen Yizi bought it immediately and gave the recorder and operation manual to Xiaosan for him to figure it out on his own. Xiao San got started quickly and even burned a work badge for herself on the spot. The gongpai is a thin piece of wood about 4 fingers wide and 1 finger long, with simple and generous cloud patterns carved around it. The upper part is his bust, which is very vividly carved and very similar to him at a glance. You can see it. The following is some information about him. Name, Xiao San. Sex, male. Department, Shen's Villa. Position, General Manager. Shen Yizi looked a bit nostalgic. In the past, whether she was a doctor or a researcher, she always had a work badge on her chest. She also got a piece for herself. Her position is the owner of the village. Haha, when Mocking City is completed, she will be changed to the city lord. Girl, I'm going to burn their work badges right now. Well, don't miss the hospital after all, they are all her employees. Yes. Xiao San went out carrying the recorder. Etc. Xiao San immediately put down the recorder and turned around to wait for her instructions. Shen Yizi motioned for him to come closer, and then a drop of spiritual spring popped up from his fingertips and sank into the center of his eyebrows. After absorbing the spiritual spring, Xiao San's eyes flashed with a sparkle, and he looked more like a human being. Thank you, girl. Go. Xiao San brought the rules and regulations and the recording device to the north of the village, gathered the slaves, read the rules to them, and explained them one by one. Although many slaves were illiterate, they could always understand what they heard. As soon as these rules and regulations came out, everyone was in a panic. We only have to work 4 hours a day. Does the host provide 3 meals a day every day? 1 day off every 10 days? Can I still get a salary every month? If you do well in the future and accumulate enough points, you can restore your status as a good citizen. Can our children still go to school? Everyone was in disbelief. Some people who believed in religious gods and Buddhas even knelt down on the spot and kept chanting. Xiao San glanced at me calmly. What you should really be grateful for is our master. Now, all line up and come to me to get your work badge. Everyone got their work badges and looked at them with curiosity and excitement. There are holes on the work badge, so you can wear a rope around your neck without hindering your work. From now on, everyone will be a member of Shenjiazhuang. Work hard and work hard for the girl. The girl will not treat you badly. A few simple words made everyone feel that there was hope for the future, and their eyes glowed with hope, which was the hope for life. Before they were bought here, they thought they would be greeted by another dark day, where they would be disposed of at will by slave owners. They had no hope, no future, and could not stop for a moment. They could be given away at will, even if they died. He was just thrown into a mass grave and his life was worse than that of a dog. But now, holding the work badges on their chests, they felt a strong vitality being injected into their hearts. It is a vigorous force that desires upwards. After arranging these slaves, Xiao San went back to other things. As the general manager, he has more and more things on his hands. Yazi, are you ready to go out? Shen Yazi was about to go out when Aunt Li came with Li Dachun. I was planning to go to the medical clinic, but there's no rush. Auntie, brother Dachun, come in and sit down. Shen Yazi welcomed the person in and served tea. Aunt Li held the teacup and hesitated a little. Shen Yazi said with a smile, Auntie, if you have anything to do, just tell me. If you are still embarrassed in front of me. Aunt Li patted her thigh, yes, let me tell you the truth. As for Dachun, he wanted to open a furniture shop a long time ago. You also know his carpentry skills. In the surrounding towns, which one has a happy event? Cabinets, entire stools, etc., all come to Dachun. It's just that my family was not poor in the past. Now thanks to you, every household in the village has improved. Our family has also saved a lot of money, but if we open a shop, we are still short of it, so I plan to find your foundation borrow some money. Auntie, you can go directly to the third housekeeper, he is in charge of this matter. I know this. My aunt came to see you because she actually wants you to help with the staff. What are the details of opening a shop? Dachun and I don't understand these. Shen Yazi understood and taught them some business tips in detail. However, in the final analysis, it is better to open a shop with goods, otherwise it will be useless even if it is done in the sky. Li Dachun's craftsmanship is solid and can stand the test. What is lacking is some innovation. Shen Yazi immediately drew some relatively new but not out of the ordinary furniture styles. After all, Li Dachun had been immersed in this for more than 10 years. As soon as he saw those drawings, his mind was bursting with inspiration and he couldn't wait to build those furnitures. Come out and take a look. Aunt Li gained a lot of peace of mind after receiving her experience, and gained a little more confidence in opening a shop. He immediately grabbed Li Dachun and said, let's go to the foundation to borrow money. Speak loudly and forcefully. Shen Yazi also wanted to visit the foundation, so he went together. The foundation is located in an open space at the end of the village near Qingmang Mountain. It is a large bluestone house that occupies a large area. The surrounding weeds and gravel have been cleaned up, and a clean stone road has been paved with flowers planted along the road. Green trees. The environment is very good. After entering, Shen Yazi found that it was quite lively inside and not as deserted as he thought. Butler Xiao San, this is the dish I made, try it and see if it tastes good. If it's good, I'll open a restaurant too. Housekeeper Xiao San, this is the veil I embroidered. My mother said the flowers I embroidered look real, so many people must like it. Butler Xiao San, this is the bamboo basket I made. A group of older girls and younger daughters-in-law gathered around Xiao San, vying to show him their works. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 245. Shen Yizi's eyes passed over their moist eyes and reddish cheeks, and he clicked his tongue in his heart. No wonder everyone is so enthusiastic about this new thing called the Foundation. Xiao San's face plays a big role in their feelings. With a tall and straight figure, handsome and profound facial features, and a calm temperament, Xiao San's appearance makes her stand out even in the imperial capital where Junyan gathers, let alone in a small village like Jiazhuang. People are all visual creatures, especially women. Which girl doesn't like to be pretty? Shen Yizi is no exception. If not, he wouldn't have picked Xiaosan among the many intelligent puppets at first glance, right? Ladies and girls, don't be impatient, come one by one, Xiao San said warmly. Under Xiao San's patient and professional analysis, everyone's demands were successfully resolved, and everyone left satisfied. Shen Yizi watched from the side and nodded secretly. As the reputation of Shen's medical clinic expanded, more and more people came to seek medical consultation. When there are more people, the demand also increases. The people of Jiazhuang are naturally advantaged. If they can seize the opportunity and work harder, it will not be difficult to get rid of poverty and become rich. Some people are already taking the lead, and I believe more and more people will join in the future. Jiazhuang seems to be heading towards an economic town. All of this is what Shen Yizi is happy to see. It's just that the speed is still a bit slow, and she still needs more manpower. The imperial capital. Prince Chen's mansion, in the garden pavilion. Goose Whitting is feeding Xiaoman. Xiaoman has grown up a bit now, and has some fine hairs on his body, unlike at the beginning. It held its head high and opened its bright yellow mouth, waiting for Goose Whitting to feed it. He used a small spoon to scoop up a spoonful of meat porridge and fed it to its mouth, with a smile on his lips. A tall white figure walked over gracefully and made people laugh as soon as he opened his mouth. I said, "What are you doing with such a rippling smile at a little bird?" It is Sujaki Yu who is the only friend that Goose Whitting can call. Goose Whitting glanced at him, ignored him, and continued to feed Xiaoman. Suyaki Yu came over and lay down on the stone table and stared at Xiaoman for a while. Why do you think of raising birds? If you want to raise birds, just raise a good-looking one. This one is too ugly, dash. Before he finished speaking, his hand was pecked by Xiaoman off guard. Of course, the pain is not very painful, but it is too sudden. Who would have thought that Xiaoman would come out of the blue, as if he understood what he was saying and fought back. After pecking the person, Xiaoman immediately moved to Goose Whitting's side, for fear that Sujaki Yu would retaliate against him. Suyaki Yu. This little bird is quite clever. He stretched out his pecked hand in front of Goose Whitting and complained, "Look, your bird pecked me, I don't care, you have to compensate me, for the sake of our friendship, money and other things are waived, just use the food that Sister Yiji sent you to pay for it." The purpose is exposed. Goose Whitting said two words indifferently, "No." Suyaki Yu covered his heart with one hand and pointed at him plaintively with the other, "Xingzhou, how could you do this to me? It's so sad." The tone was so plaintive that those who didn't know would have thought that Goose Whitting had ruined him. The corner of Goose Whitting's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but doubt his original vision. How on earth did he become friends with this guy? Is it too late to break off diplomatic relations now? It is obviously impossible. Suyaki Yu had already made up his mind to rely on him. Of course, the main reason was to eat the food made by Shen Yizi. Goose Whitting flicked his hand on the table, and all of a sudden 4 kinds of food appeared out of thin air. Braised edamame, soy sauce beef, soft crispy Crucian carp, twice cooked chicken. The first 3 dishes were all cold dishes, but the last dish, the twice cooked chicken, was still hot, as if it had just come out of the pot, with a noisy aroma. Suyakiyu took a deep sniff, showed an intoxicated expression, picked up the chopsticks and started eating without saying a word. Goose Whitting took out another pot of Osman thus brew and filled a cup for each of them. Looking at his porridge and comparing it with the 4 delicacies on the table, Xiao Man lay on the table and closed himself up, and refused Goose Whitting's feeding. "Are you full?" Goose Whitting touched its belly. It was bulging. He thought it was full, so he stopped feeding it to avoid bursting its belly. "Pick it up gently and put it into the small basket." Xiao Man looked at the dishes on the table longingly and called out twice, her call soft and tender. Suyakiyu picked up a small piece of fish and brought it to its mouth. "Want to eat it?" Xiao Man flapped his still immature wings and tried to reach his neck. "Xiaoman is still young, so don't give him random food." Suyakiyu chuckled. He had no intention of giving it to the bird, he was just teasing it. Seeing how it stretched its neck, it was quite funny. Goose Whitting glanced at him. "If I provoke Xiaoman again, you will stop eating." Suyakiyu took back his chopsticks angrily and sighed with a pretense of sadness. "Oh, it's tragic. We have been friends for so many years, and now my status in your heart is actually not as good as that of a bird cub." There is a look of sadness on his face, but don't wave the chopsticks too sharply. Goose Whitting caressed Xiaoman gently. "The stone egg that master gave me back then hatched, and it was Xiaoman." Suyakiyu paused while chewing. "Is it true or false? When and how did it hatch?" Goose Whitting told him what happened. There are also a series of things that happened after Shen Yazi came to the palace this time. Suyuyu was a little overwhelmed by receiving so much information at once, but this did not prevent him from enjoying the food at all. After finishing half of the fried chicken, he said, "So, I know that the girl is the woman from 4 years ago, and Qingbao is also your biological son." "That's right." Goose Whitting nodded with a smile. Suyakiyu thought to himself, there is really no one else who has this kind of fate. "Then when do you plan to bring them and the 2 of them over? By then, when he knows that the girl is here, won't he be able to come here every day to have a meal?" Goose Whitting shook his head. "There is one more thing that has not been dealt with." Suyuyu suddenly thought, "Peiqi? That's right, how dare this woman pretend to be Yazi's sister, and she has done so many dirty things in private using your name in the past few years. If it weren't for your sake, yes, I taught her how to behave a long time ago. But she turned out to be a fake. I don't know where she got the nerve to do such a thing. But then again, how did she know about the past between you and Sister Yazi, and also recognized the jade pendant left by Sister Yazi?" Goose Whitting drank a glass of wine with a cold expression. Obviously, she and Zhizi had a close relationship. However, Zhizi was seriously injured 4 years ago and lived in Jiazhuang. He lost his memory. There is no guarantee that her handwriting is not there. Say CAO and CAO will arrive. A young boy came to report, "Your Majesty, Miss Peiqi wants to see you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 246. Goose Whitting and Suyuyu looked at each other and said, "Bring her over." In front of the gate of Prince Chen's mansion, Pei Yuan's car stopped here. Since the last Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, she has never been able to step into the gate of Prince Chen's mansion, let alone meet Goose Whitting himself. Although Goose Whitting treated her indifferently in the past, he would still give her some face and would not let her be turned away. But now, what happened? She felt uncontrollably flustered. If she is no longer able to step into Prince Chen's mansion, I am afraid that rumors that she is disliked by Prince Chen will spread in the imperial capital soon. This time, she had to step through the door of Prince Chen's mansion no matter what. In the carriage, Pei Yuan tightened his grip on a jade pendant hanging around his waist. It was a piece of crystal clear blood jade, shaped like a peculiar flower. If anyone from the upper world sees it, they will definitely recognize that this is the emperor's flower that grows in the demonic realm. It is said that this kind of flower was transformed from the corpse of the god emperor's daughter. It is extremely beautiful and charming, and has its own charm effect. Those who are not strong-willed will be deceived accidentally, and then be swallowed up to the remains. Gradually, the emperor's daughter's flower spread its extremely evil reputation and was feared by the world. Pei Yuan dug her nails into the lines on the jade pendant. She thought she would be rejected again this time, but unexpectedly the maid came back and told her, "Girl, the prince has agreed to let you in." Pei Yuan breathed a long sigh of relief, got off the carriage gracefully in her best manner, and walked into the mansion. The boy took her all the way to the pavilion. Seeing Goose Whitting, Pei Yuan couldn't help but keep her eyes glued to him. However, she always kept her identity in mind and did not forget to salute the two people in the pavilion. When she straightened up, Suyuyu spoke, "Miss Pei, this jade pendant is very unique. I seem to have seen it somewhere before. I wonder if Miss Pei can take it off and show it to me." His eyes fell on the blood jade worn around Pei Yuan's waist. Pei Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and she subconsciously wanted to refuse. She had never left this jade pendant since she got it, and she never allowed others to touch it. However, if she refused, it would be a bit abrupt. After all, Suyuyu only had to ask to see it. Just a look. She looked towards Goose Whitting, but saw that his eyes fell on a little bird, and he didn't pay attention to her at all. He had no choice but to take off the jade pendant and hand it over. "Master Su, please be careful. This is my mother's relic." "Really?" Suyuyu's tone was light and playful. Pei Yuan felt uncomfortable under his gaze, as if he had seen through all the secrets. After Suyuyu looked at it, he did not return the jade pendant to her. Instead, he put it into Xiao Man's little basket. "Xiao Man, this is your master's jade pendant. Now that you have found it back, you have to show it to your master. Don't worry about it anymore stolen by bad guys." Xiao Man barked twice, seemingly in response, and actually pulled the jade pendant under his body with his little paws and hid it. At that moment, Pei Yuan felt a great panic, and her expression changed with horror. "Master Su, what do you mean? That jade pendant is clearly mine. Suyaki Utisk, yours. You take other people's things as your own. After a long time, do you really think that you have become the owner of this thing?" Pei Yuan's eyes darkened. I don't understand what you are talking about. Brother Switting, please ask him to return the jade pendant to me." If the basket wasn't in Goose Whitting's hand, she would have grabbed it directly. Goose Whitting finally gave her a look, but that look was like 10,000 years of ice, so cold that her soul began to tremble. "I have found the real owner of the jade pendant. The person from 4 years ago is her, not you. Pei Chi, if you honestly tell me what happened, I can let you continue to be the daughter of the Pei family, otherwise." Miss Pei Chi went to Kaiwan Temple to offer incense, but met bandits on the road and died. What do you think of this ending? These words were like a thunderbolt on a sunny day, which made Pei Yuan's mind roar and his face turned pale. He knows. He knows it. And Goose Whitting's words made her feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. He arranged her inevitable death in such an understatement. In the past, she only thought that he was cold and unapproachable, but now she realized how cold-blooded and ruthless he was, and he would show no mercy even if he wanted to kill her. Even if she is a fake, does everything she has done in the past 4 years mean to him? Didn't it leave even a trace in his heart? Pei Yuan reluctantly scanned his face inch by inch, but all she saw was indifference. She lowered her eyes, pinched her palms tightly, and bit the soft flesh on the inner wall of her mouth with her teeth to prevent her from recklessly venting out the hatred in her heart. She tried her best to calm down and chewed on what the two of them had just said. Obviously, Goose Whitting already knew that the person from 4 years ago was not her. How did he know? Obviously he didn't remember the situation at that time, and later the men in black robes cleaned up all the traces, and even that Shenyazi threw his body into the river. Obviously it shouldn't have been leaked, but what went wrong? And how much does he know? Pei Yuen was going crazy, but at this moment, Goose Whitting and Suyuyu were staring at each other with eager eyes. She knew that if she didn't say something, she would only end up with a tragic death. Okay, didn't he want to know what happened 4 years ago? She told him. 4 years ago, I went to Beijing to live with my relatives, and I happened to be on the same ship as Miss Shen. We hit it off and we got along very well. Suyakiyu sneered slightly, obviously scorning her words. Pei Yuen ignored it. The ship stopped in Linkhung for a day to replenish supplies. Miss Shen and I felt stuffy in the ship, so we planned to go into the city for a walk. There were so many people on the street, and we were dispersed later. But we agreed to meet at the pier, and when she didn't come back in the evening, I was very worried, so I went to look for her separately. As a result, I lost my way unknowingly and walked into a forest. I saw the prince lying there. I went to check and he suddenly woke up. His eyes were blood red. I was shocked. Turned around and ran. When I got back, I found that the jade pendant on my waist was missing. I wanted to go back and look for it, but the ship had already left. Pei Yuen was extremely worried. She raised her eyes and glanced at Goose Whitting. She saw that his hands on the table were clenched tightly into fists. It was obvious that he was not in a calm mood. That day, Miss Shen fell ill and developed a high fever. I went to see her and heard her talking nonsense. At that time, I also asked her maid to take good care of her. Unexpectedly, the next day, I heard that she committed suicide by diving into the water. When the incident happened, her maid blamed herself for not taking good care of her and jumped into the water. Goose Whitting suddenly asked, "What is her maid's name?" Qingluan Pei Yuen answered without any hesitation. Goose Whitting said, "Continue." He wanted to see what else she could say. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 247. Pei Yuen looked at his face, but couldn't tell anything. She could only continue to weave lies in her heart. After entering the capital, I found that my jade pendant was in the hands of the prince. I think I accidentally dropped it at that time. I wanted to ask the prince to come back, but the prince seemed to have misunderstood something and thought. She blushed, glanced at Goose Whitting shyly, and bit her lip. "Your Majesty is a man of heaven and earth. I know that I am not worthy of him, but I always wanted to be closer to him. So I acquiesced by mistake at that time. This misunderstanding was not clarified. Your Majesty, I know it's my fault, but it's because I like you." Pei Yuen looked at Goose Whitting with misty eyes, looking infatuated, but it made Suyuyu, who was watching the show, feel sick. Goose Whitting had no expression on his face, and he didn't know whether he believed it or not. "Pei Yuen, you said you like me." This was the first time that he had completely focused on her. Pei Yuen was so excited that his fingertips trembled. She couldn't help but look at him with fascination. "Brother Switting." The moment he opened his mouth, something seemed to fall in. Immediately afterwards, her eyes became hollow. "What is your true identity?" Goose Whitting asked. He didn't believe a word of what Pei Yuen said just now, but if he used the fantasy pill from the beginning, it would be easy to scare the snake and make her feel defensive, but now this time was perfect. It is easiest to pry her mouth open when she thinks her words have had an effect and is relaxed. Qingluan Pei Yuen said mechanically. As soon as these two words came out, Even Gu Switting couldn't help but change his face. Zhi told him about her dream. To be precise, it was a fragment of her memory. Wasn't her maid named Qingluan? She was the one who took the poison from the man in black robe and destroyed Zhi's face with her own hands. What's more, under the instruction of Hippeo, he threw the unconscious Zhi into the river in order to kill and silence him. At this moment, Gu Switting felt a strong murderous intention in his heart. His eyes shone with cold light, and he looked at Pei Yuen as if he were looking at a dead person. It's just that he still has some problems to figure out. How did she later become the seventh girl of the Pei family from a maid? Could it be that Pei Chi's identity was also faked by her? After guessing like this, Gu Switting asked, "Why are you pretending to be Miss Pei Chi?" "Hippeo asked me to do this. He wanted me to use the status to take down the Pei family." "Then who is the real Pei Chi?" "It's that Shenyazi." Even in an unconscious state, Pei Yuen was filled with jealousy towards Shenyazi. The murderous intention in Gu Switting's heart suddenly reached its peak. Suyakiyu was afraid that he would suffer from demonic poison, so he hurriedly comforted him. "Don't be angry, don't be angry, think about Sister Yazi, she is fine now, and Qingbao, the little guy is so cute. After learning that he is your biological cub, are you so happy that you almost go crazy? Originally, I really like the little guy. Now that he has become your son, isn't he my little nephew? I have to prepare a good meeting gift for him." Suyakiyu was mumbling, but his comfort was indeed very effective, and he successfully extinguished the murderous intention in Gu Switting's heart. Gu Switting continued to ask Pei Yuen a few more questions, clarifying all the things that had confused him in the past. However, when it was the last question, Pei Yuen did not answer immediately, but showed a look of pain on his face. The question he asked was, "Who is the man in black robe?" "Not good. Pei Yuen has been poisoned. Once she touches some key information, the people behind her will know it." Suyakiyu immediately put a silver needle on Pei Yuen to prevent the poison from attacking. It's not that he cares about Pei Yuen's life, but if she dies, the people behind her will definitely notice it. Wouldn't this alert the enemy? How can we follow Pei Yuen's line to find out the details of the person behind her? This man must die, but not now. When Pei Yuen woke up, she was still in a daze, but she heard the thin lips of the person in front of her open. "Pei Chi, don't appear in front of me again, or I will lose control and break your neck." These heartless words instantly pierced her heart like a knife. Pei Yuen clutched her chest and looked at him with a pale face, tears rolling down her eyes. It's a pity that Gu Switting didn't even give her a spare look. He just picked up Xioman's nest and left her side. Suyakiyu waved his folding fan and said as he passed by Pei Yuen, "Miss Pei, if you do unrighteousness, you will be killed. I hope you will do it well." Pei Yuen lowered his eyes with a sad expression, but the hatred in his heart almost solidified and rushed out to destroy everything. After returning to Pei Mansion's own courtyard, Pei Yuen immediately kicked out all the servants. "Ah, damn it, damn it." Pei Yuen swept all the cups on the table to the ground, and smashed several vases in succession, still feeling angry in his heart. A blue figure appeared quietly, hugged her from behind, and licked her face. "What makes you so angry?" It was Hua Yuan, the man in black robe who arranged for her to be both a guard and a supervisor. At first, when Hua Yuan came to her, he looked bossy, but later he was gradually subdued by her, and now he has been trained by her to become a dog that only listens to her words. But Pei Yuen never had any affection for him from beginning to end, she was just using him. After Hua Yuan came to her side, the black robe's control over her became much looser. Pei Yuan's eyes flashed with deep disgust, but when he turned around, he looked so charming again. Now all she can afford is $1, but one day, she will trample everyone under her feet. Even Gu Switting had to lie at her feet and obey her. Thinking of that scene, she felt endless joy in her heart. Hua Yuan, didn't you say you buried a nail in Prince Chen's mansion before? I want to know what happened in Prince Chen's mansion recently. If Gu Switting could find out that she was a fake, he would have discovered it long ago and wouldn't have waited until now, so something must have happened recently. Hua Yuan narrowed his eyes and said, that nail should not be used unless absolutely necessary. It's also his fault that he was so intoxicated with her gentleness that he let slip and leak such confidential matters to her. That nail was planted more than 10 years ago, and his background can withstand investigation, otherwise he would not be able to enter Prince Chen's mansion. As mentioned above, this nail is of great use. Pei Yuan pushed Hua Yuan down on the couch, put her hand into his clothes, teased him, and said seductively, what if I can use this opportunity to severely defeat Prince Chen's palace? Hua Yuan's eyes flashed, and Pei Yuan knew that he was tempted and continued to persuade. After a while, there was an ambiguous gasping sound in the room. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 248. That night, Hua Yuan came to Qiushui Pavilion, a famous romantic place in the imperial capital, and met with the nail buried in Prince Chen's mansion, and got an important piece of information. And a delicate little bamboo cage, no bigger than a fist, with a brightly colored bee the size of a fingernail inside, called a scent-seeking bee. Hua Yuan brought back the information and the incense-seeking bees and gave them to Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan quickly unfolded it and looked at it. When he saw Shen Yizi's portrait on it, he felt as if he was struck by lightning. He opened his eyes in disbelief and murmured, she is still alive, still alive. After reading the information, her heart was filled with jealousy. Shen Yizi, how virtuous and capable she is. Brother Xueting actually admitted that she was the princess in public. A pair of dark and gloomy eyes were gradually taken over by madness. Shen Yizi, since I can kill you once, I can kill you a second time. This time, you are not so lucky. Hua Yuan looked at the information, but his thoughts were completely different from hers. This woman named Shen Yizi has obviously won Gu Switting's heart. What's more, she can also bring out so many spiritual objects. Either she has treasures or has a strong background. If she can be captured alive, wouldn't she have a trump card? Hua Yuan, help me kill her. I want her to die without a burial. Hua Yuan looked at her somewhat crazy expression and thought, did this woman really think that she was at her mercy? He was just teasing her when he was bored. A faker, do you really think you are so great? He pushed the person into his arms and said, okay, as long as you serve me well, let alone kill one person, even if you kill 100, I won't even frown. Pei Yuan had contempt in his eyes, but his smile became more charming, and he stepped forward to greet her softly. After several twists and turns, Hua Yuan pinched Pei Yuan and said, that Shen Yizi is very strong. He can resist dozens of guards from Prince Chen's mansion without losing, and I can't leave your side, so it's best to please ask the people from Netherworld Pavilion to take action. Netherworld Pavilion? The Netherworld Pavilion that is said to have never been missed. Pei Yuan sat up excitedly. That's right, but the price they ask is also high. I'm afraid the price for Shen Yizi's order will be no less than this. Hua Yuan raised 3 fingers. Pei Yuan frowned, 3,000 taels. Hua Yuan sneered, 30,000. So expensive? Isn't it worth 30,000 taels in exchange for your peace of mind? Pei Yuan thought the same thing. As long as she thought that Shen Yizi was still alive, she couldn't even sleep well. However, she usually spent money quite ruthlessly and didn't have so much living money in her hands. I only have less than 10,000 taels here. You can help me some things tomorrow. If I can get enough 30,000 taels, I must crush Shen Yizi to ashes. Hua Yuan took her into his arms and said, I will listen to you. Pei Yuan looked at the obsession in his eyes, are you sure it's not vulgar, and she was secretly proud. In the eyes of others, the immortal was just her subordinate. In fact, she really thinks highly of Hua Yuan and herself. Hua Yuan has now passed the age of 30. After practicing for nearly 20 years, he is still only at the second level of qi refining. He has basically no hope of promotion, so he was sent to Pei Yuan. It is equivalent to being exiled. As for Pei Yuan, a mortal who only knows a little bit about the world of immortal cultivators and thinks he has mastered everything, he is nothing more than a frog in the well. Asterisk. In Junqian City, the Jinling River, a tributary of the Jinlong River, meanders through more than half of the city. The area west of the city is the busiest. At night, there will be many painted boats parading on the river, with lights shining brightly and gorgeously. There is a row of river houses on the river bank, built along the water, half on the water and half on the ground. There are wind lattice and water sill halls in the back half of the house. These halls are connected by floating corridors, with winding waists and light curtains hanging down, carrying the wind. Romantic. The most famous one is called Zhangchunwu. Zhangchunwu is in the serious business of catering and drinking, but it has a cooperative relationship with the painted boats on the river. The girls on the boat attract customers to Zhangchunwu, and Zhangchunwu provides customers for the girls. Mutual benefit, win-win. The red lanterns under the eaves gave off a hazy halo, and the sounds of girls singing could be heard from nowhere. Intertwined figures were projected on the brocade screen, creating a gorgeous scene. It was at this moment that Hua Yuan came to Zhangchunwu. He landed silently and walked straight to the inner courtyard. Along the way, I passed through countless corridors and passed through several moon gates. Finally, he came to a courtyard wall covered with blood-red roses. From the perspective of ordinary people, the entire courtyard wall is covered with vines and flowers, and there is not even a dog hole. There is no way out here. However, this is nothing more than an illusion cast by the monks. Hua Yuan channeled his spiritual power to his eyes, and the scene in front of him suddenly changed, and a door appeared on the wall. The animal head copper ring on the door was embedded with two eyes protruding from it. "Who is coming?" a dull metallic sound came from the door. Hua Yuan took a step forward and said, "Here comes the person who sends money." The door then opened, and after Hua Yuan entered, it closed again with a clang. Inside the gate is a seemingly ordinary small courtyard, but Hua Yuan does not dare to act rashly. After all, this is the territory of Netherworld Pavilion. Yes, the frightening Netherworld Pavilion in the legend of the world is hidden in this romantic place. Who could have thought of it unless he was well informed? Hua Yuan stepped into the threshold, as if passing through a barrier, and came to another world in the blink of an eye. The room is very bright, with a warm breeze and a dense aroma. Facing the door is a half-person high counter. The counter is painted with a golden red paint. Under the light, it is as smooth and shiny as a mirror. Behind the counter, a man with spring green hair was lying lazily on the imperial concubine's couch. His peach blossom eyes were sparkling, and he was not smiling but affectionate. He was Chunming, one of the four great envoys of the Netherworld Pavilion. He was holding a beautiful Persian cat in his hand. The cat had long and snow-white hair and two eyes, one blue and one green. The blue one was as clean and clear as the sky, and the green one was as clear as the lake water. The cat noticed someone was coming and lightly scratched Chunming's paw. Chunming stood up with the cat in his arms, nodded his chin at Hua Yuan, took out a resume-like paper and handed it over. "Call me after you fill it out." On the paper, there are many items to be filled in, such as the client, task content, task goal, target name, etc. Hua Yuan also knew the rules and regulations of the Netherworld Pavilion. After taking them, he walked to a table on one side and sat down. There was pen and ink on the table. He picked up the pen, dipped it in the ink and started filling it out. After checking it after writing it and making sure it was correct, Hua Yuan took this registration form and returned to the counter. "I filled it out." Chun Ming took the registration form over, without even looking at it, and handed it directly to the wick of a crystal clear glass lamp in front of her. This lamp is called the karma lamp. It can be traced back to the cause and effect. Although it has no offensive power, it is famous among the auxiliary magic weapons. Now that I have been reduced to the lower realm, I can only do like searching for people every day. The grievances accumulated by Karma Lamp are no longer just one or two. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 249. It lazily spit out a little blue flame. Strangely, the flames touched the registration form but did not ignite it. The registration form was still fine. The flames covered the entire registration form like flowing water. Suddenly, the flames suddenly jumped up, as if they had detected something unusual, making it impossible to remain calm. With a pop sound, the flame went out, as if it was too consumed to hold on. As he was dying, the glazed lamp used the remaining smoke to write a line of words: Southern Territory, Hezu Prefecture, Langchang, Ljiazhuang. It was only displayed for a moment, the smoke dissipated, and it could no longer be organized. The glazed lamps are also completely on strike. A trace of solemnity flashed in Chun Ming's peach blossom eyes. It seemed that this mission was not easy to complete. But you have to do it even if it's not easy to do. There's no reason to push out the money you get. He took the registration form and wrote in the last column. Task level, Level B, Target Location, Ljiazhuang, Langchang, Hezu Prefecture, Southern Territory. Netherworld Pavilion divides tasks into 4 levels according to difficulty: A, B, C and D. Each level is further divided into 3 levels, upper, middle, and lower, so there are 12 levels in total. A is above, A is in the middle, A is below, B is above, B is in the middle, B is below, and so on. Level B is already considered to be relatively difficult. Chun Ming tapped her cold fingertips on the counter. The mission reward is 50,000 taels. Pay half of the deposit first, and the remaining half will be settled after the mission is completed. 50,000 taels? Hua Yuan originally thought that 30,000 taels would be enough, but now it is almost half more. He happened to have more than 50,000 taels of silver notes on him now. A small part was the cash given by Pei Yuan, and the rest was pawned with the treasures and antiques she gave him at the shop. Originally, he was thinking of saving 20,000 taels. Silver. Although he is a monk, his cultivation level is low, and his strength is probably not as good as that of a first-class warrior. He usually spends most of his time on cultivation, so how can he have so much time to make money? And practicing is also extremely expensive. Wealth couple is the Dharma ground. There are 4 indispensable things on the path of spiritual practice, and wealth is placed first. It can be seen that even if you don't have money, you will lag behind others in practice. Almost all the money he got on weekdays was spent on buying cultivation materials. No matter how much money he had, it was not enough, so he had to make a crooked idea and get money from Pei Yuan. But now it seems that this money may not be able to be put into his pocket. If he could capture Shen Yazi alive, he would have accomplished a great feat, but would he still be afraid that he would have no money? After careful consideration, Hua Yuan decided to pay the money. But he still asked, can it be cheaper? Chun Ming smiled and said softly, okay. However, before Hua Yuan could be happy, he heard him say again, then the degree of completion of our mission will also be compromised. It's not enough to capture the person alive. At most, we will kill the target. Hua Yuan. How can killing Shen Yazi be as great as holding her life in your hands? But, what if we add this? Hua Yuan handed the nail to his fragrant bee and took it out. With this, you can accurately find Shenyazi's location. Chunming took it over and looked at it. Well, I'll give you a 10% discount and a deposit of 20,000 taels. 90% off, that's 5,000 taels cheaper, okay. Hua Yuan paid the deposit. Chunming handed over a sign, which was a proof of payment of the deposit. If the mission of Netherworld Pavilion was not completed by then, the guest could bring the voucher to Netherworld Pavilion to ask him for a refund. Hua Yuan put the sign away and turned to leave. Not long after he left, a handsome young man wearing red clothes strode in with an angry face. It was Xiaming, the second envoy of Netherworld Pavilion. Grandma, you're a jerk. King Chen bullied others too much. If I had known, I wouldn't have done him the last time I risked my life. Xiaming walked around the room angrily with her hands on her hips. Chunming returned to his previous lazy look. Why, the mission was ruined by King Chen's people again. It's not just destruction. Not only was the mission not completed, but all the people I brought were killed by that crazy woman. If I hadn't run fast, my life would have been lost in her hands. In anger, Xiaming touched the wound on his body, and Xiaming hissed in pain. Last time, their Netherworld Pavilion took on a mission to assassinate King Chen Gu Switting. The person who led the mission was Xiaming. As a result, the mission was not completed. All the people he brought were killed by Gu Switting, and he almost didn't make it back. Gu Switting found out that it was their Nether Pavilion that did it, so he got into a fight with them. Not only did he raid several of their strongholds, kill a large number of people, but he also almost found this place. After that, he made several attempts to sabotage their missions and threatened to uproot their Netherworld Pavilion. For this reason, everyone in the Nether Pavilion was very angry. However, the situation was weaker than others and they had to bow their heads. Yuming Pavilion was very aggrieved and asked for peace, but Gu Switting actually refused. Now, their Netherworld Pavilion has been killed to pieces. If this continues, they will really be forced to disband. Xiaming became angrier as he thought about it, and punched the counter. The counter was fine, but his hand bones were almost broken. How could he forget that this counter is made of extremely hard wood? Chunming didn't even raise an eyebrow when she heard his complaint, as if what he said had nothing to do with him. Xiaming is also used to his lazy and careless temperament. When he finished speaking, Chunming Shiren took out a registration form and said, "What a coincidence, someone happened to be here to issue a mission. The target of the mission is closely related to Gu Switting, who you want to kill quickly." Xiaming took it and took a look, and her face, which was gloomy just now, instantly brightened. "Ha ha ha, Gu Switting, you have a day today too. Let me catch that Shenyazi and see how arrogant he can be." Xiaming excitedly snatched the cat from Chunming's arms and forcibly kissed it on the forehead. The cat scratched it with a paw. "Xiaming, you are looking for death." "Xiao Dongming, don't be so stingy, ha ha ha." It turns out that this cat is Dongming, the fourth envoy of Netherworld Pavilion. It is a cat demon in disguise, and is just as lazy as Chunming. Two people who are so lazy that they have no friends get along best. Xiaming took advantage and ran away, fearing that Dongming would catch up and scratch his face. Chunming watched his leaving figure and was not very optimistic about this mission. But so what? Asterisk. Ljiazhuang. Shenyazi visited the construction site of the villa for a while. When the workers saw her, they all greeted her eagerly and respectfully. These workers are the slaves Xiaosan bought back before. Their own houses have already been built. They are simple wooden houses, which can be built in a few days without much effort. Although it is a bit crude, there is no problem for people to live there. The weather is now entering autumn, neither hot nor cold, and you don't have to worry about getting cold at night. The most important thing is to give them a place to stay first. After they get their wages, they can apply for a piece of land in the village and build a house of their own at their own expense. The most urgent task now is to build the villa first. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 250. Shenyazi customized a drawing of the villa in the grocery store based on the terrain. It was 3D. Items that did not involve spiritual energy were sold very cheaply in the grocery store for less than 10 points. She handed the three-dimensional map to Xiao San and asked him to be responsible for supervising the construction of the villa. Now Xiao San has more and more things in his hands, but he knows how to employ people. He does not do everything himself, but knows how to promote suitable candidates. Xiao Yi is there to watch over the Hongda restaurant. Xiao Er is his assistant in the affairs of the village, and he has also chosen a person in charge of the slaves, named Amu. Amu has a strong figure and deep facial features. A scar on his eyebrow bone adds a masculine look to him. He is a tough guy, but his mind is not as rough as his appearance. On the contrary, he is very smart and delicate. They are also very prestigious among the slaves, so they are managed obediently. Usually, if Xiao San has anything to do, just go to him directly. He can convey what Xiao San has told him very well. At this moment, everyone is clearing the land where the villa will be built under the command of Amu. Very busy. In the past few days, they have been fed and fed well, and they don't have to work hard day and night. Moreover, they have a better life, and the appearance of the slaves has improved greatly, both physically and mentally. Everyone is working hard and actively, and they are not just showing off when the master Shenyazi comes to inspect. Shenyazi was very satisfied, but the progress was still a bit slow. In the final analysis, there are still few people. It would be great if there were several times more people. It would be best if there were monks to work for her. When the time comes when water is needed to make the mud, just throw it over with a water polo spell. To transport heavy wood and stones, you can easily move it with a light feather spell. Greatly reduce workload. However, as far as she knows, the monks here are all very high-ranking, so why would they come to work for her? Shenyazi shook his head and threw this whimsical idea behind him. She just didn't expect that this idea would be realized so quickly. That night, Shenyazi practiced in space and broke through to the 5th level of Qi refining in one fell swoop. Feeling the more abundant spiritual energy circulating in her body, she felt very happy. At this moment, she received a message from the fairy outside. The contract acts on the soul, so it is not restricted by space. However, if the distance is too far, the message cannot be transmitted. Just like this moment, across a space, the message from Xiaoxian was somewhat intermittent. Zhizi, someone, broke in. What broke in? Shenyazi rushed to the entrance of the village, but found that there was no place for him to use himself. Xiaorong, the banyan tree spirit, and Xiaoxian had already subdued the group of people who broke in. Xiaorong cultivates by absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon. His need for spiritual energy is not very strong. Of course, if he has it, he will welcome it. With the cultivation techniques given to it by Shenyazi, it practiced diligently day and night. Now it has achieved great results and has been promoted to the middle of the 1st level. Although it cannot move, its branches and vines are not in vain. They can all be used for fighting. At this moment, several men in black robes are tightly wrapped around the branches. As for Xiaoxian, since he followed Shenyazi, he has enough spiritual liquid to swallow him every day. When he is not on guard duty, he can also go hunting in the mountains to catch some game. His growth rate is also amazing, and he has now reached the 1st level. Later. At this moment, it was tying up a man in blood-robed clothes. No matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. Even without Shenyazi taking action, the group was wiped out. She was even more satisfied that they only trapped the enemy but did not silence them. Well done, she rewarded Xiaorong and Xiaoxian with a drop of spiritual spring each. The two rubbed her affectionately, jumping for joy. Shen Yizi came to the man in blood robe. Among the group, he was the only one who was dressed particularly coquettishly, which showed that his status was extraordinary. Moreover, he is the only one who has cultivation level, and his cultivation level is still higher than hers, reaching the 8th level of qi refining. How could he be caught so easily? Speaking of which, Xiaoming, the man in blood-robed clothes, also felt that he was wronged, and he was attacked unexpectedly just as he entered the village. What attacked them was a banyan tree and a vine. Carelessness and caught off guard, a group of people fell into trouble like this. Shen Yizi guessed that Swipeo was probably the leader, so he didn't waste any time and directly threw a powerful version of the truth pill into his mouth, and at the same time turned on the recording stone. In less than a quarter of an hour, Xiaoming explained everything. A group of subordinates were entangled in banyan branches next to them. Shen Yizi pulled off the small bamboo cage hanging on Xiaoming's waist. There was a brightly colored bee inside, which was the incense-seeking bee in Xiaoming's mouth. Scent-seeking bees, as the name suggests, will follow a specific scent. Obviously, the target of this incense-seeking bee was her. When was she tampered with? How come she didn't realize it? Shen Yizi had no clue for the moment, but the group of people in front of her came just in time. She felt that she was lacking people, so she kept them as coolies to atone for their sins. How dare you come to assassinate her? These people will not want any more wages from now on, so they can only work for her in vain. Shen Yizi used the soul control technique on a group of people. The specific operation was to use divine consciousness to leave a mark in their sea of consciousness. This mark was engraved on their souls. Once there was any change in them, it can make their souls fly away. So, how dare these people disobey her? Okay, put them down. Having been imprinted with the soul mark by her, these people knew that they could only listen to her words except for death. They were all as quiet as chickens and stood there obediently waiting for her fate. You must know my name, so I won't introduce myself anymore. From now on, you should work hard for me and don't cause trouble. I will kill anyone who causes trouble. If you obey me, maybe I will mercifully let you go and follow me. Shen Yizi walked towards the row of wooden houses where the slaves lived. At that time, we considered that many people might live in it in the future, so we built a few more buildings and reserved a large area of open space during the construction. Now these people have caught up. In a few days, it might be occupied by new arrivals. All the men in black robes looked at Xiaoming. Xiaoming felt embarrassed and ignored them and followed Shen Yizi. I thought that this time it would be able to complete the task smoothly this time. In order to ensure that everything was lost, he came in person, and all the people brought were good hands. The result, that's all. Now let's think about how to save our lives in the hands of King Chen's woman. Shen Yizi pointed to a few empty wooden houses. You will live here from now on, and go to AMU tomorrow and he will give you work. After a few simple instructions, Shen Yizi left. However, after taking 2 steps, she turned back and said, "Take off the robe on your body."